So today, for my structured language program, I worked on the Spalding method. The Spalding method was created around the 1980s by Ramada B. Spalding. She was an educator starting really early in the early 1920s, and she was great at what she did. She was a great teacher, but throughout her experiences, she learned that the way that she was teaching and the way that her schools were making her teach, it wasn't really getting through to all the students. All her students had very diverse needs, and her method of teaching didn't reach out to all of them. So she created the Spalding Education Foundation in 1986 so that she would be able to better educate her students how to read, write, and spell. And she wanted this to be true for all students, whether they were from the US or whether they were English language learners or whether they had special needs. So a quick summary of the method. It specializes in giving a mix of explicit, interactive, and diagnostic instruction. That means that oftentimes the instruction is very black and white, very upfront, that students are able to interact with it and have fun with it, and that through the instruction, the students will be able to gauge how they are doing. This is mainly done through group instruction, through a instruction to the entire class at one time, and then after that, if the teacher sees that a student has like special needs or is going above and beyond and is gifted, or just is an English language learner, she might choose to have individual conferencing or small group interventions to follow the group instruction. So in addition to the above qualities, the Spalding method is also known for being sequential, multisensory, and integrated. And I think that's really important because having a plan, having a structure for a method is extremely good because it'll give students the proper progression as they go along in their learning. So the instructional focus, I kind of talked about this earlier. The Spalding method primarily focuses on 3 different areas of English learning, which is reading, which is over here, writing, and spelling. And I think that this graph, which I actually took from the website, it's very important because it really articulates the main things that they are teaching the students, seeking to teach the students. So for reading, literary appreciation, basically being able to interpret literature and speak about it and talk about what works in a story, what doesn't work in a story, and literary conventions, that's emphasized. Text structure, emphasizing the text structure, like if it's a novel, short story, poem, song, etc. And listening and reading comprehension strategies, which that's basically trying to get the students to listen to reading so that they will know how to say words, how they will know how to basically interpret literature, as I said before. For writing, they focus a lot on using and explaining what high-frequency vocabulary means, discussing word structure, parts of speech like verbs, nouns, English conventions, including the exceptions to English language rules, grammar, and composition. And lastly, for spelling, they focus a lot on phonemic awareness and a lot relating to phonics, which you'll see later when I show an example of the first grade standards. They focus a lot on pronunciation, spelling, language rules. I know in the early grades they focus a lot on blends and making sure that students are able to say syllables correctly. Like I said earlier, the method also focuses on helping English language learners, the gifted people, and special needs children through specific and individualized instruction, which would obviously be mean that the program is altered so it'll better fit their needs. And in addition to this, the program includes instruction for students from kindergarten to 6th grade. So back in the day, that's kind of like the elementary school age group. So implementation with the students. They use a lot of strategies to instruct students. They use phonemic awareness for spelling, systematic phonics. They focus a lot on having a very structured system. The majority of the implementation of the method with students relating to spelling focuses on strengthening their phonemic knowledge, like I said before. And in addition to this, older students are primarily taught reading comprehension through reading informational text and good literature that is appropriate for the level that they are currently reading at. So through that, students are better able to understand literature because they're not reading literature that's dumbed down for them or literature that's way too beyond them. They're basically right where they need to be and right where they are learning wise. All right, so this is an example of the implementation of the objectives. So as you can see, at least this is the first page. The entire first grade planning was about 12 sheets, but I just took the first page. They focus a lot on phonics. They focus a lot on phonograms and basically making sure that students are able to properly pronounce letters. Like, for example, like I said, exceptions to the English language, like you can see number 7 has silent E's and other things like that. So assessment methods used. I think that this is really important and I think it's really awesome. There are 4 main assessments that are used with students through the Spalding method. Oral phonogram assessments, written phonogram assessments, reading comprehension assessments, and monthly Spalding spelling assessments. So these assessments are primarily done online. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but there was a video explaining it on their website, which basically said that teachers will be able to choose from these assessments of like when they give the students the assessments, and they're designed to make sure that all students have understanding of spelling, writing, and reading, like I said before. And another really cool thing about the entire online assessment methods is that the teacher or administrator, depending which one gets it, they get a summary report, a comparison report, and a trend report. And you can't really see it, but it shows the scores of all the students, and it also shows what percent of your students are at risk, what percent of your students are below level, what percent of your students are at the current level that they need to be, and what current students are above the level. And I think that's really important for teaching because you're able to gauge where your children are at. You're able to tell which students are really going to need a lot of individualized help and which students will need more, I guess you could say, gifted stuff. Okay, so additional program information. Through the Spalding Method website, a teacher or parent can register for many Spalding courses. There were some parent courses, and there were also like MLA courses. There's also a list of resources for those who are looking for information. There is an entire list of tutors in the United States who work under the Spalding Method.